Mystery stories are something that I think anime as a medium has had a lot of trouble portraying very well. Nothing really unique to animation neglects the ability to portray this type of story accurately. However, I have a very hard time thinking of anime that have a mystery aspect or element that was done very well. And this is a shame. I do like mystery when it's done well, but I just feel like it's not in a lot of cases. To me, the best part about mystery can come in three ways. I think the first important part is that lack of knowledge or information can change our perception on characters or events and make us feel a different way up until a reveal or more information is given, at which case we have to look at our biases, look at our recollection of the events past, and maybe change our minds. Second way, kind of adding onto this, is that it can add to the themes of the story. It can give us a different perspective and kind of give us a different message than if we had known everything all along. I think this can be used very interestingly and is sometimes in a lot of good shows. And I think the third most important thing is that there's this thrill always that comes with mystery shows that everyone who likes this genre or likes any show in the genre can agree to. There's this thrill of finding out more information and seeking out the answers for ourselves and either being right or wrong and feeling validated either way in figuring out what happens. There's a certain joy that comes with that. The feeling of being right when you were given the information and coming to a conclusion on your own that validates, oh yeah, I am smart. I figured that out. That was cool. Wow, this is so cool. I could have done this. I could have been in that scenario and done this correctly. Or maybe you didn't get it right, but the main characters did, and you can see their clear logical path through the information and say, oh wow, our main characters are cool. They thought of this in this way that I didn't think of. And by extension, our author is cool because he's able to set up the scenario that lets me understand a little bit more about how I could correct my thinking and come to a conclusion I may not have otherwise. Maybe a trick I didn't know about. Something like the Sherlock Holmes series is a masterclass in this, of course. One of the most famous stories of all time has plenty of things like safe rooms being found by weighing down the surrounding room, creating a slope, stuff like that. All this information that you could see practically being used in a scenario, albeit maybe a rare scenario, but practical information nonetheless, and something interesting to go along, builds our skill set a little bit. These three aspects of the mystery genre are something that I think uniquely can add appeal to these types of shows, something that you might not get anywhere else. So, tying into this, Attack on Titan Final Season Part 1 just finished airing about this week. Overall, it was received very well, and I would say I liked this season as well. It was pretty good overall. However, I don't think there's very many people talking very badly about it, and I felt like it still had a lot of problems that stemmed from the rest of the series. But I guess for the most part, pretty much everyone else liked this show a lot more than I did. Even multiple people telling me that they thought it was a modern classic in the works. But for me, this was like a light 7 probably, and prior seasons worse than that even. So what didn't stick with me about this show? What did I like less about it than other people? To me, it comes down to the writing and not paying off on these aspects of a mystery show correctly. So let's evaluate a little bit. What does Attack on Titan do to make proper payoff on these ideas? I think the thing it probably does the best is that our lack of knowledge at the beginning of the series adds to the payoff and change our perception of this Titan threat. Knowing what we know at the end, having been through the beginning season or so, really adds to our perspective of how they view this threat and how these characters should be thinking. I think it does a really good job in that way of making us feel a certain way based on our prior experiences that we may not have if we had all the information at the beginning. I think it does well in that specific aspect. However, I don't think being limited in our information adds to the themes very much of the show. Ultimately, this is a war story, and the show has a lot of commentary on that, but it's all forced to the end. All the development and commentary on war is forced towards the end of the show for the most part because we don't have enough information or knowledge on it of our characters to make judgment calls early on. Early on, it's just very simple, one way, do a thing, and it doesn't really develop past that for quite a long time. We don't even get any proper motivations until the third season. So it really feels like it struggles to make a coherent point based on us being not given very much information early on into the show. The third point, I find the most egregious example of Attack on Titan having issues with its writing, that very often I think this thrill of trying to find things out by ourselves and trying to solve mysteries on our own is not there. I feel very often I am waiting on a reveal instead, or I am not given enough information to come to any conclusions on my own. The only time I think that Attack on Titan does a good job with this maybe would be when we're trying to figure out in the first season who the Colossal and Armored Titans are. I think that is set out quite well, but everything else, it kind of feels like we're waiting on a reveal. Anytime I was thinking to myself, what are the motivations of these characters who, do such horrible things? And the answer is, you sit there for 3 seasons and you wait. You sit there for 3.5 seasons, not until 3rd season part 1 or part 2, until you get any amount of information on why these bad people are acting this way. And despite multiple shouting matches of Eren and Colossus Titan, Armor Titan, all these people about, oh, how could you do such a thing? Oh, well, I had a reason. Oh, really? That's the whole interaction. That's not a real dialogue. There's no information being given there. I just have to wait for the motivation to come 3.5 seasons later, it feels like, and hope that it justifies it and is interesting. We delay all of that interesting development and conversation till a million miles later in the name of a cheap reveal, a cheap twist that we quote unquote didn't see coming. I mean, I can't help but feel like it's wasted time. I just feel like if we were spending this time properly, we wouldn't be sitting here for a season and a half where our characters can't communicate because we're waiting on reveals. Many of our answers in this show are things that you couldn't really actually predict because you're just not given enough information. So I feel like that's one of the worst things you could say about a mystery show, is that it keeps you waiting the whole time for not much. And I can't really suggest people to watch a show if it doesn't keep me engaged throughout. If you think about it, would you not rather this story was more upfront and we were given more information in the beginning to develop our characters and scenario further? There's so many characters, there's ensemble cast at this point towards the end in final season, and so many of them have mixed feelings and development, and it's pretty nice. But we have to cram this all into 1 or 2 seasons because we spent the first 2.5 seasons dicking around doing nothing, pretty much, it feels like. I would struggle to sit through season 2 after knowing everything I know, and I feel everyone else would probably feel the same way. I don't know how you could sit through season 2 and not think you were just waiting for a reveal the whole time. It was very unengaging for the most part. All the conversations are just neither side knows enough information about the other side, or one side is withholding information, so there's no real interaction happening. There's just, I can't believe you did a bad thing. Well, yeah, I had a reason. Oh, really? What's the reason? Can't tell you. Well, shit, I can't make a judgment call for another season and a half, so we can't have any actual interaction. We just have to take their word and wait for the reveal. For those of you coming from Twitter, maybe, I've formatted my argument in a way that the Twitter denizens can understand. It's in the form of a Wojak meme. I know these are all the rage. So here we have the Wojak meme, and this is basically the Cliff Notes version of my argument here. With the creation of this meme, hopefully that means that I am now automatically correct. I think many people are way too entertained over a simple rearrangement of information being withheld. They just give us a drip feed of information and then bam, twist happens. When I think the story would be more interesting if they set it up earlier and then we developed off it longer. I think having to rely on these twists to make your show interesting is a sign that the themes and writing aren't really that interesting and can't keep the audience engaged on their own. But to me, other than the weak writing, I think the biggest problem is just keeping us fucking bored, wasting my time. And I think that's the worst thing you could say about a show. Even a lot of mediocre shows don't keep you sitting there, and at least you can laugh at how things don't go as expected. So with that, I think the worst thing I could say about a show in terms of writing is that it keeps me strung along and it bores me. And honestly, I think that is what's wrong with Attack on Titan.